Hey guys, Jared here again, aka Laughing Man, with a comparison video for you. Today I just kind of wanted to take a quick look at. I just wanted to take a quick look at two of my favorite EDC knives. Um, Now these are two of the most common knives that you'll see people carrying, um, as far as like a mid-range knife. I say that because you're gonna see people with their, up to like $2,000 knives and even more expensive than that. Um, as well as stuff much cheaper than that. So this is just, I find these to be mid-range knives. Some people will think that, a $150 knife um, is an expensive knife. Then you'll have people that will tell you that, oh no, that's just a production knife and that's a cheap price for a knife. Um, so I try not to get caught up in all of that too terribly much. So, because I've got knives on both ends of that spectrum, and these just happen to be two of my favorite, regardless of the prices of the knives. But these seem to be the two closest match ones that I see people reviewing a lot and talking a lot about. And that is, of course, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and the Benchmade 300. Now, both of mine here are limited editions or sprint runs. Now, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 here I got on massdrop.com. It was a sprint run of the Brown G10 grips and S35 VN steel. And this Benchmade 300 here is the Cabela's exclusive with the D2 steel blade. So, main things to consider if you're looking at purchasing either one of these knives, or if these are the two that you've narrowed it down to, is going to be your thickness and weight. Those are going to be the two major things. Both knives are extremely smooth. You can open and close them just by, depressing on this compression lock, which is the Spyderco's lock. That there are people that compare it to the regular liner locks. Then there are people that'll tell you that there's a huge difference between that, but just by pushing that, you can see that it just drops free, which is a feature that I like in all my knives. I like to have a very smooth, fast blade. So you can, open it like that. You can flick it with your thumb through the spider hole. You can do the middle finger flick. Hard to do at this angle. You can do the index finger flick. So what needs to be, both these need to actually be cleaned up and re-oiled, but you get the idea. It's very smooth. Then with your Benchmade 300, this has the access lock on it, which you just pull back on it and it releases the blade. This has no play in the blade whatsoever. Very good lock. I love the access locks. You can do it left or right-handed. The compression lock, you can do it both hands, but it's a little bit more awkward to do it. So the Benchmade 300 also has the flipper tab on it, so you can just light switch it there, or I love flipper knives. So, flipper knives are one of my favorite types of knives, which is why I got this. I actually got this one before I got the Paramilitary 2. I was being extremely stubborn. I wasn't ordering my knife online because I wanted to buy it in person, because I wanted to feel it before I bought it. But nobody had them in stock, so I had to end up going online. But I bought this, and for me, it's not a huge deal to carry this, but this is definitely a much heavier knife and much thicker knife. So if you're trying to go with something very thin, low profile, all my knives have wear on them because I use all my knives. But this is the rub satin blade. As you can tell, there are some minor scratches and stuff on it. Breaking down cardboard boxes and stuff, it works well. This one needs to have the blade rehoned. anyway, so it'll stop trying to focus on it. But you can tell it's S35VN steel. The other thing about this is when you compare the two blades, if I can do this without cutting myself on camera, with the Spyderco, you get a really, I hate this background sometimes, you get this really, really fine tip on it as to where the 300's got more of a swoop to it. For some reason, I do find that this D2 steel blade on the 300 seems to hold its retention better, or stays sharper longer. But after you buy this knife, you will almost definitely end up breaking off the initial tip that's on it, because it's really, really fine tip. But it's easy enough to bring back out and make it a little bit broader so that it doesn't chip off so easily. But I've got a couple friends with the S30V steel blades, and they've all knocked off their tips too on accident. It's just one of those things that happens. But I'm not here to tell you which one to buy, but if I had to do it all over again, I could only choose one of these knives as an EDC knife. It would be the Paramilitary 2, as 90% of people that have this knife would choose. Now, this isn't the only knife that I carry, obviously. I think when I did my pocket dump the other day, I think this is the knife that, or one of the two knives that I had in my pocket. But definitely not the only one that I carry. The other thing to keep in mind is D2 steel is a very strong steel, but it's also a very fragile steel. So if you pry with this has almost no give to it. It'll just snap on you. So another thing to keep in mind. I think this mixture of the rub satin with the stone wash finish that this particular blade has, I think this hides the scratches a little bit better. The Paramilitary 2, you can definitely tell that there's some wear on it. But like I said, all my knives, I use them to their full extent. So this thing gets abused daily. But yeah, so again, that's just a quick look at these two knives. Give you a little bit of a comparison between the two. You can kind of get a feel for their overall lengths together. They're not small knives. When you stick them right next to each other, the Paramilitary 2 is definitely a bit longer. But I do find the Paramilitary's handle to be more comfortable. It's actually, I don't know. I mean, it feels like you have more handle and more grip on your handle here, but this one here has more contours that seem to really cup in really nicely. Also, this one's got thumb studs for deploying, so you're traditional if that's how you want to deploy it. But no matter which one of these knives you go with, I don't think you're going to go wrong with. I love both of these. I will tell you that I spent about $150 to $160 on this one, on the 300, and I paid for the sprint run of this one. I think it was like $135. So the Paramilitary 2 is cheaper, though much harder to find. But yeah, so that's just a quick look, guys. If you have any comments, any other knife reviews that you'd like to see, if there's any information that you want to know about either of these two knives, just let me know. Like, share, comment in the section below. Thanks, guys.